Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today my video is going to be slightly different. I'm going to be sharing everything I wish I knew before I started my YouTube channel. So if you're new here, then my usual content is fashion related. I do everything from fashion hauls, styling tips, dressing for your body shape. As a certified style coach, I love helping people feel confident in what they wear. If you're one of my usual subscribers, and I will be back doing the fashion content next week, this is just a kind of a one-off because I started my YouTube channel about a year ago and I know how overwhelming it can be. So I wanted to kind of share a no holds bar account of everything that I wanted to know when I started, what I did wrong, what went well, and what I would do differently if I was starting my YouTube channel in June 2025. Now, before I started my channel about 10 months ago, I literally Googled loads of questions, I watched loads of YouTube videos, I even bought a starting a YouTube channel book, which anything that I thought would help me start my YouTube channel, because I had just tons and tons of questions in my head. So the whole process initially I found really overwhelming. So hopefully this is a kind of no fluff, real talk guide to help you if you're either thinking of starting a YouTube channel or you've started a YouTube channel, you're kind of quite early in your journey and you're questioning a lot of things that you're doing, which I assure you is very normal. Before I start, I would like to say that everybody's YouTube journey is different. So you're not going to experience exactly the same things as I experienced. It's definitely not an easy money-making fix. It is hard work. It's quite slow, especially when you start. But if you are passionate about doing it and about your topic, then it can be such a great experience. I've learned so many new skills in this process and I'm really enjoying the process. Although it's not always been like this. I have been quite, there's been plenty of times near the beginning that I've questioned if I was doing the right thing. So let's get started. This is quite a long video, so you might want to grab yourself a cup of coffee, tea, glass of wine, whatever takes your fancy. I have my coffee with me and my water with me as well because, yeah, I'm going to be doing a lot of talking. So grab yourself a drink and let's get started. I do also want to say before I start that I have made quite a lot of notes on this. I don't usually read or kind of make tons of notes. I just usually have a few bullet points, but I didn't want to miss anything, and because this is not my usual topic, I've just kind of made some notes to make sure that I'm sharing everything that I want to with you. So if I am looking down or reading, then you're going to have to bear with me because there is quite a lot of information. So I started my YouTube journey in July of 2024 and I got monetized on May the 7th this year, 2025, where I met the requirements for 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours. And I actually met the requirements in March, but applying for the YouTube partner program, you have to go through a process which is 3 steps. It's signing up for the T's and C's, signing up for an AdSense account, and then kind of the third step where YouTube monitors or audits your channel before you kind of get the approval. My step 2 took a lot of time. I had some issues. I'm not going to delve into this too much. I will touch on it later on when I talk about monetization, but I'm planning on possibly, if you guys want, to do a whole separate video on monetization because that's kind of a whole new story in terms of the process, different ways of being monetized, etc. But I will talk about that more a bit later. I feel like I was well on track to meet my 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours within the year. I wasn't I wasn't expecting to hit it sooner. And I think by February, March this year, I had around 600 subscribers. And then I did a fashion hacks video, which just went crazy, or at least by my standards. So that fashion hacks video got 60,000 views within a few weeks. I think it's currently 70,000 plus. And just from that one video, I gained 1,500 subscribers. So it was that one video literally meant that I could be monetized. So I got monetized when I had over 2,000 subscribers and way more watch hours than the 4,000. Because of that one video. Now, like I said, I feel like I was on track on being monetized within the year, and that was my big aim. But it just goes to show that you really don't know when one of your videos are going to take off. I really honestly did not expect that video to do so well as it did. So that was just such a great experience and a surprise for me. And compared to my usual views, I would say I average about 2,000 still, like 10 months in on my videos for every video that I do. So getting that crazy amount for me was an absolute first. Before I talk about your kind of topic and niche, I wanted to touch on your kind of mindset and expectations, because I think that's a really, really important part of starting this journey. Starting a YouTube channel is very exciting, but it is really overwhelming. There's so many questions in your head and so much information to process. And here's the truth. Growth is really slow at first. Every creator, even the biggest ones, started with 0 subscribers, and that's quite important to keep in your mind. Your first few months might feel really slow, but growth builds with consistency of posting. So when I started, I think my first 5 videos, I would be lucky if they got 100 views each, which was quite discouraging at the time. And I was the sort of person that I was checking my analytics every 10 minutes. I was looking to see if I had gained some subscribers, if I had gained more views. And I wish I didn't do that, because I put quite a lot of pressure on myself by feeling that I wasn't where I should be. You know, if that sounds familiar, then I do think that's perfectly normal. But just remember that it does take time to grow, and if you don't see many views on your videos in the first kind of 5-10 videos, or you don't see your subscriber base go up in days, don't feel like that you're failing. Even though it might feel like that, it's a very normal reaction. But the beginning, the first few months, 3-4 months, is going to be slow. And the reason it's going to be slow is that nobody's searching for your content. And that's the truth. People don't know you. People don't know that you're out there talking about fashion or traveling or whatever it might be. As well as people not kind of searching for your content because they don't know that you're out there. Also, YouTube are not pushing your content out because YouTube's algorithm, which you may have heard a lot about, doesn't know at this point what your content's about. So it doesn't know who to push your content out to. It doesn't know who's going to be watching your content or subscribe to you. So that all takes time to build up. It might take weeks, it might take months, but YouTube will then start to realize who your content is aimed at and start pushing your video out to that audience who are likely to be interested in your content, and you will then find that acceleration does grow quite quickly when the right audience finds your content. I think one of my biggest mistakes was comparing myself to other content creators. I used to watch other fashion content creators way before I started my channel, and I had this bad habit of kind of, when I wasn't growing, thinking, oh my God, like, look how many subscribers they've got and look how many subscribers I've got. Should I really be doing this? And all of these kind of thoughts were entering my head. But you should never compare the beginning of your journey to somebody else's middle of their journey, if that makes sense, because everybody started as a beginner with 0 subscribers. And when you look at your favorite content creators, or even somebody that's been doing it for like a year, and you think they're way further than I am in that same time period, just remember that big creators have spent years kind of honing in on their content, building trust with their audience that come back over and over again to see them, because they, as well as their content, they've kind of built a relationship and a trust with that specific creator, which as a new creator you won't have gained yet. I didn't gain. I'm just starting to find that, you know, I'm building a really lovely community of subscribers that do come back over and over again. You can't expect success overnight, but just remember that every video that you create will get you one step closer. So being completely honest, it probably took me 10 months before I took the step to start my channel, because I had all these different kind of negative thoughts in my mind, which I'll talk about in a little while. But I also, when I started my channel, I did have this kind of imposter syndrome. I did think, when I saw that my channel wasn't growing very quickly, I did kind of think, does anybody really want to watch my content? You know, I started my channel a lot later in my life, so I kind of thought, am I too old to start my channel? Just all those kind of negative thoughts that come into your head where you kind of feel like, or you question whether you should really be here. And that is completely normal. I don't think you'd be human if you didn't question or have those questions in your mind. Every creator will have this imposter syndrome where they feel that their content is not good enough, or that nobody cares about their content. So how did I overcome that? I think in those moments where I was really questioning if I'm doing the right thing or if anybody wants to see my content, is I kept reminding myself why I'm doing this in the first place. For me, fashion is an absolute passion for me. So I kept reminding myself that I love talking about fashion. I love dressing up. I love styling outfits. And the real reason that I'm doing this, and do not obsess over analytics. Honestly, guys, if I could give you one tip, that would be it, because it can be so discouraging to keep checking your analytics. I know it's hard not to do when you're in that beginning growing phase, but it really doesn't help you, or it didn't help me, because if anything, it just kind of stressed me out sometimes, thinking that, you know, I spent so long making this great video and nobody was watching it and nobody liked it, whereas actually there could have been a ton of factors that, you know, as I spoke about earlier, that people don't know you exist at this point. YouTube's not pushing out your content. So just keep those in mind and just go with the kind of passion of creating that content, of having this amazing new experience where you're going to be wearing all these different hats, and consistency. And I promise you that your channel will then grow. I honestly think that consistency is one of the main factors in growth. So for me, I post one long video a week, and I try to post a short a week as well. Now, I would like to do more long videos a week, but this is realistic for me. I also have another job, a part-time job, my office job, my regular job. So I just don't have the time, and I didn't want to stress myself out and get kind of burnout. I wanted to enjoy the experience, so I find that this works for me, because it does take a lot of time to create content. It takes a lot of time to edit. It takes time to upload your videos. All of those things take time, probably more than I expected originally. So give yourself a realistic posting schedule, but you should, I would say, try to aim for one a week at least, because that will build consistency. That will get you out there, and people will come across your video, and those people will come to expect that you're going to post a new video every week. And on top of that, I actually try to post my videos on the same day, and roughly the same time. So I post my videos on a Sunday, kind of early evening, if it's possible. Sometimes it's a little bit late, but I try to do that, because that means that my regular subscribers know when my new video is going to come out and probably are more likely to expect it and watch it. So I think consistency is a really, really key factor in growth. So if you have got low growth, try to stay positive, try to celebrate the small wins. If you get 100 on your first video, celebrate that. That's, you know, there's 100 people watching your video. That's still a big achievement, but next month it might be 500. The month after that, it might be 1,000. Just celebrate the small wins. Also, I would say engage with your subscribers or your audience. If you get comments, I try to answer every comment, because somebody has taken the time to comment, and I want to build that kind of relationship and a feeling of trust that I want to be able to go back, whether it's a question, whether it's, you know, just a comment on somebody else's experience. I think it's really important to engage with your audience. And also, this kind of starting period is a great time for you to be honing in on your skills, to improve your editing, to improve your thumbnails, to kind of see what works, to have that kind of almost like a bit of an experiment in the first few months by just improving each aspect of your video, and then it will become a lot more of a natural process. But it's a great learning experience, and I would take the opportunity in the first few months to concentrate on that and improving your content, your thumbnails, your editing. And also, do keep in mind that your first videos will not be perfect. When I look at my first few videos compared to my videos now, there's a big change, and that will be the case for every creator. Nobody expects your first videos to be perfect, probably apart from yourself. Your first 5-10 videos are likely to be not great. I've had comments on initially when I started that the kind of audio has been quite echoey. There's been lighting issues, but these are all things that you would learn. Nobody expects the perfection. What you should do is just do the video. There's never going to be a perfect time, and consistency will improve that aspect and quality of your videos. But instead of one for months, I wish I had just jumped into this when I initially thought of doing this, which was 10 months previous to when I actually started. So let's now move on to actually creating your channel. I think one of the biggest things is to choose your niche or your topic that you're going to talk about. For me, this was easy. I've always been really passionate about fashion. I studied as a style coach. I've loved fashion and styling for as long as I can remember. So for me, it was wanting to talk about fashion, wanting to share my ideas, wanting to share my tips. That's what I was passionate about. Your topic or your niche is the foundation of your channel. It attracts your audience, keeps them engaged, and helps YouTube to push your content out to the right audience. So when you're picking your niche, ask yourself these questions, and I am going to read these out so I don't miss anything. Am I genuinely interested in this topic? You'll talk about the topic a lot, and if you're not really interested in the topic, then your audience will actually feel that, and it's really hard to, on a weekly basis, talk about content that you're not really excited or interested about. Do I know enough about the topic or want to learn about the topic to sustain this long term? You don't need to be an expert in the topic, but you do need to have a passion for the topic, because you will be talking a lot about it. Also, it's really important to ask, is there an audience for this topic? And to find that out, I would just go onto YouTube and do a YouTube search and look at what comes up when you do your YouTube search. What's your competitors doing? Is there a lot of competitors? Are people looking for that particular topic? Because something might be a passion to you, but if nobody else is really searching for that topic, you may not get the subscribers that you want. Now, if that's not your aim at all, and you just want to do it because of your it's your passion, it doesn't really matter if there's people out there that are going to find your content enjoyable, then that's absolutely fine. But for me, I loved fashion, but I do want to see people watching my content. I'd be lying to say that it was important to me that I would finally become monetized. So be honest with yourself and try to choose something or a topic that there is going to be some demand for. And also, I would ask myself, can I come up with, say, 50 videos on this niche? Because if you're making, like I said, consistency is key. So if you're making, say, a video a week, you need to be able to talk about this topic and make a number of videos relating to this topic. If you can't brainstorm, say, 30 to 40 to 50 different ideas that you can talk about for your content regarding the topic, then that may not be the right niche for you. Also, I think it's really important to have your niche being more focused rather than really broad, or at least to start off with, because if one week you're going to talk about fashion, the next week you're going to talk about travel, the next week you're going to talk about gaming, number one, YouTube are not going to know who to push your content out to. And secondly, you might gain subscribers on one topic, but if you're going somewhere completely different, people might unsubscribe because you're not talking about the content that they came to see you for that first video. Now, I know I'm doing a completely different topic this week, but this is kind of every other week it has been fashion related. And I don't mean that you can't vary your content, and you should vary your content to keep it interesting to your audience. So my content ranges from doing fashion hauls to come shopping with me, to fashion hacks, to styling tips, to how to dress for your body shape. So it's all within that kind of fashion and styling niche, but it's not the same. So I'm not doing styling hauls or shopping hauls every week, because I think that might get a little bit kind of too samey every week. So I like to vary my content to keep my viewers interested, but still to keep it mainly around that whole fashion content. Now, it doesn't mean that your niche now has to be your forever niche. When people get to know you as a person and they come back to watch you as well as your content, you can then maybe diversify your niche a little bit or talk about various different things and build them into your content. But I would initially, as a new starter, when people don't really know you, I would stick to a more focused niche. Okay, so let's move on to equipment, because that was one of the big stress factors for me. I had in my head that I needed all the professional equipment to make good videos. Subconsciously, I think I was probably looking for excuses not to start. Let's talk about probably the most important question, which is, do you need a camera? And my answer would be absolutely not. If you've got a decent smartphone, then you can make really good videos, in my opinion. I didn't have a camera for the first 3 or 4 months. I just made everything on my iPhone. And then I bought a camera, and I wasn't sure about the right settings. I didn't really like kind of the lighting of it, and I really knew nothing about a camera and the technical aspects of it. So I still continued to use my iPhone when I had my camera till I learned about the settings. So you definitely, to start with, don't need a camera. The camera that I have now, I bought, I think it was 3 or 4 months after, but it's the Sony ZV-E10, which is a solid vlogging camera. It does the job. You are able to purchase more lenses for that, but I haven't done that. I'm just using the camera as it is, as it came, because at this moment in time, I don't particularly think I need a different lens. I may do in the future, but then I will buy that as and when I need it for my content. But that's a perfectly good camera. I think it was about £400-500, so still not cheap, but one of the cheaper ones, I think. But you definitely, to start off with, especially if you're not sure this is going to be long term and you just want to give it a try, I would definitely just use your smartphone. I mean, to be honest, I still use my smartphone a lot now, so all my content like come shopping with me, like when I do cutaways of me styling my outfits, they're still always done on my iPhone. My camera I use mainly for kind of long form content, like now I'm using my camera when I'm just talking most of the time for my video. This is when I kind of tend to like to use a camera, so I still use a combination of both rather than just my camera. Right, I'm going to take a sip of water because my mouth is going really dry now. I'm going to read this list because I don't want to miss anything out, but as I said, a decent smartphone is an essential. Also a clip-on microphone, because I found that whilst my camera microphone is fine and as is the iPhone, I found that in some instances I sounded quite echoey, and especially when I was in kind of open spaces. So I just bought like a little clip-on camera. Now I also have a camera that I attach to my, now I also have a microphone that I attach to my camera, but I initially just started with like a little clip-on microphone that I got from Amazon, which I will link the equipment that I use below because that might be helpful. I don't think I've got everything right. I don't think I've still got my lighting right, but you know, I have the basics, and as I learn more, I will purchase more in my journey as I create more content. There's no rush to get like the best of everything at the beginning. So as well as a microphone, I mean, natural light is great and it's definitely the best and the most flattering, but you know, number one, if you live in an unpredictable country like I do, like in the UK, where the weather can just like rain one minute, be really dull the next, and then sunny the next, it's likely that you're going to need some form of light also. So I mean, a ring light, I would say initially, just a basic ring light would do initially. I have like a couple of other lights that I use to, you know, when I don't have kind of natural light, and also where you're going to film, you know, the most suitable place for you to film might not be where there's natural light. So you have to take those factors in consideration. So I would start initially with a ring light and then do your research based on where you're filming your content, you know, where you live, what the weather's going to be like, how dark it's going to be, like, you know, when are you going to be filming? Are you going to be filming just in the day, in the evening, and just buy lighting based on that. Now, I haven't got this yet, but I'm kind of looking and researching now into that kind of a bigger box light that diffuses light, because I understand that they can be quite flattering, but I don't want to do what I did before and just rush out and buy the first one I see. So I'm kind of doing my research now before I spend or waste, you know, more money. So the next thing I think you need is a laptop or a desktop, because I think, like, for me, I edit my shorts on the phone, but there's absolutely no way I could edit my kind of long form videos on my phone. So you know, if you've got a laptop or you've got a desktop already, then that's fine. You don't need like a Mac or an Apple Mac or anything like that. But my laptop actually just broke down a couple of months before I started. So I actually had to purchase a laptop, which, you know, for me is an essential. So if, you know, but most people probably have a laptop already, so you know, that might be something that, or a desktop, so that might be something that you don't need to purchase. I would also say that you need an adjustable tripod. Now, it doesn't have to be a fancy tripod. Again, like Amazon do really affordable tripod, and it doesn't need to be fancy. You know, I would say have it adaptable so that if you want to film when you're standing up, then it needs to be kind of long enough. Whereas, and if you want to film like I'm filming now, I've rested my tripod on my kitchen island, so it just needs to be adaptable to where you're going to film your content. And that is honestly all I think you need to start your, you know, your iPhone, a clip-on microphone, a ring light, and having either a desktop or a laptop and a tripod. I think once you've got them, you know, that's kind of your basis for a good few months before you might need to invest in further equipment. Let's move on to software now. So this is all the software that I use. I use free editing software. So on my phone, I use CapCut. Now, all of these have a paid for version, but even like a year into my journey, I'm still using the free version of these. So CapCut for editing on my phone, and I use that mainly for when I'm doing YouTube shorts or if I'm posting something on Instagram. For my long form videos and on my laptop, I use Clipchamp, which comes free with Microsoft Office. Again, I believe you can get a paid version, but the free version has been fine for me. It's got a lot of features that you can use, and I can do perfectly fine videos with that. I have heard of a software called Descript that I'm looking into. I think it's kind of makes editing a little bit easier. It does things like, you know, you can get rid of silences, or you can get rid of, like, when you say in between as silence fillers, all those kind of things. I think you can get rid of, but I haven't looked into enough detail, and I may look into that, but that will be, you know, I'm in no rush basically to do that. Clipchamp is working fine for me at the moment. So that's the other thing I actually use to help me, and I'll talk about that more when I talk about SEO and titles. But I also I've paid for an extension of YouTube called TubeBuddy, and that's an extension which helps you with your SEO being your search engine optimization, in a way that your video is found by people and how YouTube pushes your video in the algorithm. But as I said, I'm by no means an expert on this, but I will kind of tell you the basics about how I understand it as we move through. It kind of highlights best practices. So I find TubeBuddy helpful. Now, I did pay for that, and if I'm honest, I can't remember what I paid for that, but I will write that down. I think I did an annual one, and I think it was under £100, I believe, but I will link that below. I'm not being sponsored by them or anything like that. It's just what I use. And for editing, I use Canva. Now, up until 3 months ago, I was using the free version of Canva, and it's brilliant. I love Canva, and for doing your thumbnails, that is absolutely what I would recommend. And I think the free version is really, really good. I do now pay for it because there were loads of things, as I was getting a little bit more familiar with what I wanted to do with my thumbnails, that I wanted to do on my thumbnails, but they were the paid for features. So for me, it was worthwhile. I think I pay £13 a month, and for me, that's probably been the best one that I'm paying for, because for me, that's just, I use Canva for so many things. It's such a great tool, really easy. They've got tons of templates. So if you're not sure what to do for your thumbnail, and you can just kind of add in the words that your content's about, and it will give you kind of thumbnails that you can potentially use. And I think that was one of the main reasons that I pay, because some of the thumbnails are free, but some of the thumbnails are under their kind of pro title, which is a paid for version. But yeah, Canva, just brilliant for all your editing. In terms of music, I've just started to use YouTube's library of music. If you go to YouTube Studio, they've got kind of their kind of library of audio that you can use. And one of the good things I find about that as well is that you don't then know you're not going to get copyright strike on there, because if you get a copyright strike on one of your videos, then you don't get monetized for it. So I think I just stick to that. I have used a free trial of Epidemic Sound before, and that was great, because that was kind of I knew that wasn't going to be copyrighted. I may consider, if I start to use more music in my video, if I start to do a little bit more vlogging content, I may consider signing up for something like Epidemic Sound. But at the moment, I just use YouTube kind of audio, which is free in my videos. Okay, so let's move on to scripting. Now, it really helps if you have a format for your video before you start filming your video. And by that, I don't mean a word for word kind of script where you're going to read everything out. Today, I've actually written down more than I have for any other video, just because this is not my usual topic and I didn't want to miss anything out. So I have wrote quite a few notes in this. You don't have to script every word, but having a solid structure, I think, will help with how your video flows and make it look and sound better. I would say the key things, like, you need to grab somebody's attention. I like to tell my viewers what my video is going to be about in the first 10 seconds. I mean, you can have these great hooks that are going to make people want to stay. I'm not that great at that at the moment, if I'm completely honest. I still need to work on that, but I do at a minimum like to tell people what my video is going to be about in the first 10 seconds. Because I think if you do that, then they will know if that your video is going to appeal to them and whether they should watch it rather than just kind of flicking through and going to the next video. So I think that's really important. Also, deliver your value concisely. What problem are you solving for them? People's time is valuable. So you need to kind of outline, or you need to quickly let them know what's going to set your video apart from all the others that they could watch. I would also finish with a strong call to action to encourage engagement, whether that's asking people to subscribe if they enjoyed your content, or whether you're encouraging them to add comments for you to engage with, whether it's checking out another video or another playlist to keep people on your channel for longer. I think finishing with a strong call to action is a really important part of the video. Like I said, when it comes to scripting, I don't like to write out every single word because I want to come across as natural and not like I'm reading the content. I know that I am a little bit at some points today, but like I said, I don't want to miss anything out. But mistakes happen and people connect with authenticity. And, you know, I don't even edit out nearly like all my mistakes because I just feel like actually it's human and I'm not perfect. And I think people appreciate that. So for me, I just find that kind of bulleted key points work really well for me, but each person has to discover themselves what will work best for their content to make it flow effortlessly. So let's move on to thumbnails, titles, and SEO. You know, you've done your content, you've edited it, and you're ready to post it. And I think one of the biggest mistakes that YouTubers make is that they underestimate the kind of the value of the thumbnail, the title, and the SEO. So let's talk about thumbnails first. A great thumbnail makes somebody, as they flicking through all the hundreds of different videos that they can see, makes somebody want to click on your video. You can make the best content in the world, but if somebody's not going to click on your video because their thumbnail doesn't appeal to them, they're never going to get to see that great content that you've made. So what makes a thumbnail stand out? I've learned this as I've gone along, but I think a bold thumbnail and not too cluttered is one that works well with my viewers or people who watch my videos. I also think readable fonts. I don't bother with really fancy fonts. I think kind of bold, readable fonts. And what I started to also do is have a kind of my font in a darker square. So use the font where so it's highlighted, you know, amongst the pictures, the images of what the video is about. Also, I find that expressive faces can sometimes encourage click-through rates depending on what your video is about, and just faces in general. So I think I get more click-through rates if my face is actually on the thumbnail, because then people identify with kind of who the content is from. I would also recommend that you stick to a kind of a similar brand, whether that's color, texture, or however you do your content. I think people become familiar with you, and as they become familiar with you, when they're scrolling through, they will become familiar with your thumbnails and what kind of represents your video. So I wouldn't kind of go completely different every single time. I would try to keep it quite consistent. How do I design my thumbnails? So I tend to use my iPhone to take loads of different photos, or sometimes even videos, and I go through them and I kind of capture the photos that I think will work the best. I then upload them into Canva, choose the template I want, and then use those images and then add fonts in. I would say make sure that the photo is really clear and of good quality, so it's not blurry and is very obvious for what you're trying to show. Also, don't forget that you can change your thumbnail after you've posted your video. I mean, you can change your title after you've posted your video. You can change your description after you've posted your video. So, do remember that, if you feel your thumbnail's not kind of producing the the views that you want, you have a chance to change your thumbnail. And what's really great at the moment with YouTube as well is that you can test up to 3 thumbnails, and they will kind of put it out in a test for you. I think you can go up to 14 days. I think it's called the A/B testing feature, but I use that quite a lot, and I think that's a really good way if you're not sure if your thumbnail is going to perform. Also, I would say a good tip is to look at other people in your niche and what thumbnails they're using. You know, the content creators that you admire that are getting loads of views, have got tons of subscribers. Look at theirs. I'm not saying to copy this completely, but take ideas from theirs. I do that all the time. I'm sure most people do that because, you know, you can then adapt that idea to the vision that you have in your mind, but you already know what's working well out there. So I think that's a really important tool to have. I think a strong title is really important. It sparks curiosity, it can solve a problem, or it promises value, but something that's going to make somebody want to click onto your video. For example, if I'd have just said in this video, how to start a YouTube video, it wouldn't be as appealing as how to start a YouTube video in 2025, everything you need to know. It's just going to add that little bit of extra that's going to want to make somebody watch your video. And that's what it's all about, to just get somebody to click into your video and find some value in what you're doing. Whether your title is problem solving like this one, or whether it's curiosity starting. So something like, I started a YouTube channel a year ago, here's what's happened. I would say try to keep your title under 70 characters, just because that's kind of what you see in the title before it cuts the rest out. So you want people to be able to read what your video is about in that kind of first 70 characters, because that's usually the rest of it is cut out unless somebody clicks onto it. If you wanted to do, I think you can have up to 100 characters, maybe kind of have the main 70 up front so people know exactly what your video is about, and then if you wanted to add a little bit extra, you could do that. Like I said before, TubeBuddy is really helpful in optimizing your titles, and that's one of the things that I use it the most for. Also, the YouTube algorithm and the SEO, the search engine optimization, plays a huge part in getting your content discovered, because that's the way that YouTube finds and recommends your video. YouTube's algorithm analyzes your YouTube title, your YouTube description, tags, although I don't believe they're as important now in YouTube, and also the engagement. So do people like your videos? Do they share your videos? And all of these things count in recommending your content to the right people. So also have a keyword rich description. I would write your main keywords in the first few sentences of your description. So the keywords that you have in your title, find a way of adding them into the first few sentences. That all helps with the algorithm. And I tend to detail my description. I know a lot of people just seem to add 3 or 4 sentences, but I feel like it all helps for YouTube to find your content and push it out or recommend it to the right audience. So I always add a detailed description of, you know, what my video is about. You know, in my case, what brands I'm going to be talking about. And also in your description, you can add your other socials. So Instagram or TikTok, your email address where businesses can get in touch with you for potential collaborations. I'm in 2 minds about tags. I still use tags. I think they used to be a lot more important before, but I think from what I understand that people were just putting kind of any tags that weren't related to their content. So from my understanding, YouTube now uses the kind of metadata, the content of your video, to know who to push your content out to, or who to recommend it to. Tags not going to do any harm to it. I still think that they help. Sorry guys, my battery just died, so I just had to change it. But I think I was talking about tags. Like I said, I still add tags into my videos, and there is space where you can add your tags. But I don't know how much good they do, but they don't do any harm. So I still like to add the tags. I just make sure that they're spelt correctly, otherwise they're not going to do anything for your kind of the SEO. and that you kind of put the relevant tags and not just random tags that have got nothing to do with your content. That's the key things that you need to know to get started on your channel and to post your video. To be honest, this is like the job description that nobody tells you about. It's not just about making the content, editing it and posting it. You're a writer, an editor, a photographer, a videographer, a designer, a project manager. It's all of these hats that you're wearing. It's such an incredible learning experience. I honestly didn't ever do any editing on anything. I used to potentially post every now and again on Instagram or Facebook and just post photos without any editing at all. So I had absolutely no experience of editing. And if I can edit my videos to look halfway decent, then anybody can, because I'm not like a hugely technical person. So I've learned some incredible skills doing this, and it's not been the easiest process, but it's been a really rewarding process. Like I mentioned at the front, I'm just going to touch on monetization because, you know, again, this is a long video and I'm happy to do another video, and I'll tell you about that in a little while. But like I said, I hit monetization requirements in March 2025 and I got monetized in May 2025. The YouTube Partner Program has 3 steps. So you have to initially sign up to their terms and conditions, which is really quick and easy. The second stage is signing up for an AdSense account, and the third one is then YouTube audit your channel to make sure everything's fine before you're monetized. Now, step 1 was fine. Step 2 took the longest time for me. There were loads of issues with signing up for AdSense. You know, I incurred quite a few problems. I did a lot of research, and people do tend to find some issues. There are some best practices for that, which I'm not going to go into currently, but I might do that in another video. Also, you know, when you are monetized, AdSense is not the only way that you can make money from your channel. Like I said, I'm kind of a part-time YouTuber. I would hope that one day I might be able to earn enough money on YouTube to do this full-time, which I would really like. But that's definitely not now. Like YouTube, AdSense is not going to make you rich. It's not going to be enough money for you to live on unless you're a massive channel. And also it's going to vary month by month. But there are other ways of making money on YouTube. And that's from collaborations and sponsorships. That's from affiliate marketing. So getting commission based on your referrals. That's by creating digital products that people can purchase. So there are a number of different other ways. Like I said, this isn't my usual content, but I'm happy to do another video in 3 months' time, because I was thinking of combining it with what I earned in my first 3 months on YouTube. So that would be June, July, August, kind of at the end of August, beginning of September, and I can combine that with more monetization on the kind of the issues that I had with AdSense and what I would recommend, and also the different ways that you can earn money on YouTube. So if you would like to see that, then let me know in the comments below, because I'd be happy to do that. If you are watching purely for this kind of content, I'm probably not your best person to subscribe to, because like I said, this is going to be kind of every now and again just to update you on where my journey's gone in terms of how much I've earned, etc. But my weekly content is fashion related. On the other hand, if you do love fashion content, then I would love for you to subscribe to my channel. If you did like this though, please do give it a thumbs up, and I really, really do hope, guys, that this information has helped. And I would strongly advise that if you're thinking about it, just do it. Honestly, please don't overanalyze it like I did, because it's an amazing journey, and I can honestly say that I've got further than I ever thought I would, because I honestly had all the same negative thoughts as most people do, and I am really enjoying the journey. It's not easy, it's really time consuming, but it just getting some of the comments I get and knowing that it's helped people is you know, it was a reason that I kind of studied style in the first place, because it's a passion of mine and it's just so rewarding. But it is a journey that I'm finding really enjoyable, and I am really glad that I eventually started. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I shall see you next week. Take care. Bye.